Be good to others. Be of service. Do good for other people. Treat other people right. Treat other people good. Because one, there's part of a self-serving part of that, because it makes you feel good to do something good for other people. If you happen to be one of those people watching this, you know who you are, and I thank you.
Malcolm Jamal Warner, the actor best known for starring in the TV sitcom The Cosby Show, has reportedly died.
Malcolm Jamal's death was shocking because it came so suddenly at a time when no one expected it. What's even more shocking are his last words. It feels like he was trying to teach us something before he passed away. Malcolm was still so young, still making waves, still out there living his best life. But then, out of nowhere, the cold arms of death came for him, and no matter how much he fought, there was no escaping it. He went to Costa Rica for a family vacation, and just like so many of us do, he decided to take a swim in the ocean. But that day, the ocean had other plans for him. Strong currents at Clay's Beach Lyman pulled him under, and at the age of 54, he was declared dead.
Malcolm Jamal Warner, the actor most famous for his role as Bill Cosby's son, Theodore Huxtable, on the NBC hit sitcom The Cosby Show in the 80s and early 90s, has died. Police say he drowned off the coast of Costa Rica yesterday while vacationing with his family.
The way it all unfolded is haunting. First, he was rescued by people on the beach, and they tried to save him. But despite their best efforts, it was discovered that Malcolm was already gone before they even got him out of the water. He had passed away long before the rescue team could get to him. And still, people couldn't help but feel that there was something off about it all. Fans, critics, even the people closest to him, couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his death than what we were being told. It was all too sudden, too strange, and just didn't sit right. But let's rewind just a bit. The day before he passed away, Malcolm recorded the final episode of his podcast, Not All Hood. This wasn't just any episode, this one hit differently. In it, he spoke some of the most powerful words anyone had ever heard him say, words that felt like they were meant for us to hear in that exact moment. Words that, in hindsight, seem like they were his way of preparing us for what was to come. He talked about Black culture and the media's tendency to paint it in such a narrow, biased way. Instead of showcasing the full depth of Black culture, the media only highlights the parts that fit a certain narrative, a narrative that only serves a few. Malcolm had enough of it. He made it clear that he was fighting to change that.
And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be Black in America, even if it looks like we've got it made? But freedom has its limits, so here we are, tear-streaked and salt-stained faces.
He went on to talk about the hood narrative, the one that has been consistently ignored and suppressed. For him, the hood wasn't just a place. It was the very essence of Black identity. It was the core of Black survival. Without it, there would be no Black culture. And without Black culture, there would be no American culture. That's the truth Malcolm was standing on. He was tired of seeing Black culture exploited, misrepresented, and commodified. He was tired of hearing people, especially white people, misappropriate Black culture just to make a profit or fit a narrative they didn't even understand.
She said the light and the dark have to coexist. They always have, they always will. You can't have the light without the dark.
Wow.
And that really put things into perspective for me.
Malcolm didn't stop there. He raised a question about the term Black excellence and how it's often tied to superficial markers like fame and wealth. For Malcolm, those weren't the true measures of Black excellence. What was truly excellent about Black culture was the resilience, the survival. It was about waking up every day, despite the system that was designed to suppress, erase, and undermine you, and still finding a way to thrive. That, he argued, was the true Black excellence. And it was something that the mainstream would never give credit to.
You tell me the fate of a people who consciously take the bait that embrace the very traits placed upon them by their captors, who by design are inclined to keep them believing they're second rate?
In his podcast, Malcolm reflected on how his views on Black culture had evolved over time. He wasn't the same person he was when he was playing Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. Back then, maybe he had a different view of what Black culture was, but years of life experience had shifted his perspective. He realized that Black culture wasn't just a trend. It wasn't something to be co-opted or exploited. It was something deeper, something far more meaningful, and it needed to be respected for what it was.
And he says, The thing about a black boy is you don't necessarily want to beat a black boy. What you want to do is you want to love him so divinely. You want to love him so fiercely that your disappointment will kill him. You want to adore him so much that the last thing he wants to do is disappoint you.
He also warned us about distancing ourselves from the hood. For Malcolm, the hood wasn't a place of shame, it was a place of strength. It was where everything that made Black culture powerful came from. Music, art, and fashion, all of it had roots in the Black experience, particularly in the hood. Without the hood, there would be no American culture, no vibrant cultural landscape for the world to admire. The success of American culture wasn't because of wealth or fame. It was because of the struggles, the pain, and the survival of Black people, especially those in the hood. That was where it all started, and that's where it should have remained.
Unfortunately, the success of hip-hop is predicated upon being anti-Black. The messages in hip-hop that get the exposure are misogyny, murder, and disrespect of fellow Black people.
But of course, Malcolm's message didn't sit well with everyone. To some, it was revolutionary, and with revolution always comes a reaction. Maybe that's why his death came so suddenly. Maybe that's why his final message felt like a warning, like a premonition. The man was speaking with so much conviction, so much fire, as if he knew what was coming. Maybe he did know. Malcolm's words didn't just challenge the media or the system, they challenged us all to rethink how we view Black culture, to stop buying into the watered-down versions of it that we've been fed for so long. He wasn't just talking about Black excellence as something to aspire to. He was talking about survival, about resistance, about staying true to who you are, even when the world is trying to erase you. That was the real Black excellence. That was the message he wanted to leave us with.
Art of being Black is often an acrobatic act in defending Black humanity in a world that worships a pale, long-haired Anglo-Saxon savior, even though the Bible clearly describes him as a bronze-skinned, woolly-haired Hebrew.
If perfection could speak, it would definitely call Malcolm Jamal's name first. Despite his public persona as Theo Huxtable, he lived a life that was free from scandals. But no matter how hard you try, tragedy always finds its way, and for Malcolm, it came through a series of heartbreaks that never truly broke him. Instead, it made him stronger and more resilient, and he became the embodiment of Black culture's refusal to give up, no matter the obstacles. One of the first tragic blows in Malcolm's life came in 1988, when his former girlfriend, Michelle Thomas, passed away from cancer. Michelle, who played his love interest on The Cosby Show, was his first love, and losing her at such a young age deeply affected him. When you lose someone you love so early, it can break you, but instead of falling apart, this event shaped his emotional maturity and calm demeanor. It gave him a perspective on life that most people never come to see. But life wasn't done dealing with him just yet. Malcolm, who had managed to live a relatively peaceful life, found himself facing his biggest challenge. He was dragged into one of the most scandalous accusations in Hollywood, the essay accusation against his mentor, Bill Cosby. Now, let's be clear, Malcolm wasn't the one accused, but as Cosby's close friend, he was inevitably pulled into the mess. But what was Malcolm to do? This wasn't just about defending a mentor who had picked him up when he had nothing. This was about acknowledging the pain of the victims too.
I am in no position to defend him because I can't.
Right.
But nor will I throw him under the bus.
Malcolm could have easily distanced himself, turned his back on Cosby and focused on the victim's pain, but instead, he stayed loyal to his mentor, even though he knew it was a complicated and painful situation. In an interview, he said he couldn't defend Cosby, but at the same time, he couldn't just walk away from the man who had given him the chance to shine. That's loyalty, and Malcolm knew it like no one else.
So he gave me, amongst the million of things I learned from him, he gave me a real sense of how to handle celebrityhood and living in the public eye.
He remembered all that Cosby had done for him, the spotlight, the fame, the opportunity that would have never come without him. Malcolm's role as Theo on The Cosby Show wasn't just another acting gig. It was a powerful, positive portrayal of a Black family in America at a time when that was sorely lacking. The show became an emblem of Black culture, And no wonder Malcolm worked so hard to preserve that legacy even as he grew older.
And that show holds such an importance because it really changed the scope of how Black America and white America and the world, for that matter, saw Black people.
So, when the show was removed from syndication after the scandal, Malcolm was devastated. It was like erasing an entire cultural movement just because one person made a mistake. He knew the show had an undeniable impact on Black culture, and it hurt to see that legacy tarnished because of one man's actions.
A couple months later, seeing Keisha on some talk show, and they asked her the same question. And she said, no, it's impossible to tarnish the legacy of that show because there's a generation of kids who sought out higher education because of that show. Facts. There are a generation of kids who grew up and got married and had loving families because of that show. There's no way that you can reverse the influence that that show has had on the culture.
But what frustrated him even more wasn't just Cosby. It was the hypocrisy within the entertainment industry. Here, you had people like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski who had faced their own allegations of misconduct, yet their works continued to be celebrated and revered. The public just moved on, as if their actions were overlooked. While Cosby's work was erased overnight, Malcolm couldn't stand it. He called out the entertainment industry for its double standards, being lenient with some, but harsh on others. It wasn't fair, and it certainly wasn't how things should have been. Oh, Malcolm didn't want to be just Theo Huxtable. He didn't want to be stereotyped or confined to one role.
I showed that Black people could be funny without being stereotypical. And then I got over to UPN, where all of UPN's programming was, stereotypical, you pick a nigga.
So he broke free and carved out a new path. He became an actor, director, musician, and spoken word artist. He was determined not to let the world define him by his most famous role. And he succeeded. He won a Grammy for his R&B work and was even nominated for another Grammy for his spoken word album, Hiding in Plain View. Malcolm made the right choices at the right time, and in doing so, he avoided falling into the trap that so many child stars do. His mother, who managed his career, instilled in him a sense of discipline that helped keep him grounded.
What's up? Congratulations, man.
Hello.
The nominee tonight.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How you doing? I'm Louise.
How are you?
Congratulations. Right? How you look super happy. You've got the biggest smile.
I'm very excited. Well, it's kind of like I've had the realization that I'm living like two of everybody's dream, like on the TV side and the music side. So
Now, here we are, still questioning the timing of his death. Everything about it is just strange. The powerful message he left behind in his final podcast episode, combined with the timing of his passing, has made fans wonder if there's something more at play. Maybe there's a bigger agenda behind it all, something we don't fully understand. The tragic deaths of other Black artists like Prince, Nipsey Hussle, and even the legendary Tupac all followed moments of profound truth-telling and cultural commentary. This has led some to question whether there is a systemic effort to silence Black voices who dare to speak out for their people. Despite Malcolm's powerful voice and his consistent fight for Black representation, his death was met with little media attention. It was almost as if the world just moved on. There were no grand tributes, no public memorials, just a quiet headline announcing that Theo Huxtable had passed away. This lack of recognition speaks volumes about how Hollywood has continuously sidelined Black artists and their messages, and Malcolm was trying to change that. His podcast was an attempt to ensure that Black voices weren't silenced, but unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to see the true impact of his work.
There is part of me that I will be able to leave this earth knowing and people knowing that I was a good person.
In his final podcast episode, Malcolm spoke about the power of Black survival and the necessity of redefining what success really means. He wanted his audience to understand that surviving systemic oppression is, in itself, a form of excellence. It's not about fame or wealth. It's about overcoming the odds, about standing tall in the face of adversity. That was the message he wanted to leave behind, and it's a message that continues to resonate today. Malcolm's death might be a part of a much larger cultural narrative. Every time a Black artist or activist begins to challenge the mainstream narrative or speak out against systemic injustices, there seems to be a tragic consequence. From Malcolm X to Nipsey Hussle, the cost of speaking out against the system has often been high. And now, with Malcolm, it feels like the pattern continues. But even though he's gone, Malcolm's message is far from over. His life was cut short, but the truth he spoke still rings out. It's a reminder that excellence isn't about possessions or status. It's about roots, about survival, and about telling the uncomfortable truths that so many are afraid to hear. His death, like the deaths of so many other Black figures, should push us to listen to the voices that are too often ignored. We need to hear their stories, their truths, and their wisdom, because that's where the real excellence lies. Malcolm will be missed. May he rest in peace. Subscribe for more videos. See you in the next video.